but in a way in which the body can ultimately be optimized for a productive
Not
way
today.
in which we use that.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but apparently it takes Yvette Vera Perez to raise an entire clean tech industry. Founder of not one, but two major organizations, she's now leading the charge for Canadian hydrogen. From securing top talent for innovation to managing millions in funding for greenhouse gas reductions, she's been in the trenches, making a difference. Today, I'm welcoming the powerhouse herself, the president and CEO of the Canadian Hydrogen Association, Yvette Vera Perez. Yvette, welcome.
Thank you, Ernest. Thank you for having me here with you, and thank you for a very generous introduction. It does take a village, and Canadian Hydrogen Association, we have an amazing team, but we have even more amazing members and board members. So we are a collective village. Yeah.
For the introduction, can you tell me who is Yvette Vera Perez?
Yeah, so my pleasure to talk about myself, of course. But so I am Havana native. So I was born in Cuba. I came to Canada in year 2000. Of course, lots of dreams and lots of hopes to make Canada my home and to make a difference. I am an engineer by background, and I have a Master's of Applied Science from the University of British Columbia and an MBA from McGill University. So I'm very proud to have been able to receive great education in Canada and contribute to our clean tech ecosystem, to our economy, and just try to make a difference. And I'm very fortunate that I got to practice in my field of study and the area that I'm passionate about.
What is your vision for Canada's hydrogen industry?
So that's a good question. Canada, if you look at our history when it comes to hydrogen, we have a legacy of knowledge and companies that actually have been leaders in the sector since 1905. So you can trace our electrolyzer industry back to 1905 when Alexander Stewart started coming up with the concept of producing hydrogen via electrolysis. Now, when you trace all the way until today, there's one company in Canada, the name is Hydrogen Optimized, that actually goes all the way back to Andrew Stewart, and not only one company. All these ideas and these patents and this very early stage IP gave birth to a number of companies, or help develop a number of companies in Canada, specifically in Ontario, such as Hydrogenics, later acquired by Cummins, Next Hydrogen, like I mentioned, Hydrogen Optimized, and many other companies that have actually learned from the best. Canada has been doing research, as far as I have been able to trace it, since the 1940s. The National Research Council has been doing research in hydrogen since the 1940s. So imagine all that knowledge, all that IP, right? That's why, in a way, our academics are so strong when it comes to hydrogen. And then if you add to that Ballard, which was founded in the 1970s, right, also gave birth to what we call the cradle of the fuel cell industry, which is British Columbia. And many companies have learned from Ballard and have actually come out of Ballard. All that talent has created a tremendous ecosystem in Western Canada. So coming from that perspective, what is my vision and what I hope to see for the Canadian hydrogen industry is claiming or reclaiming, if you will, that leadership position in the world at a time when hydrogen is top of mind for everyone and many countries, right? So we have that knowledge, we have that tradition, but it's really not an entitlement system, right? We need to continue to work very hard and capitalize on that knowledge and tradition so that we can claim a top spot as a player in the hydrogen sector worldwide.
These are very interesting facts. To add to it, Canada is also the cradle of Hydrail. Remember the contract between Alstom and Hydrogenics. But this means that we are on the right place. How would you describe the current state of hydrogen energy in Canada today?
So I think that the state of hydrogen energy in Canada is very similar to the state of hydrogen in the world, I would say. I would say that we're tracing similar trends. There has been in the, say in the early 2000s, there was a lot of hype and great optimism. And with that great optimism sometimes comes less than realistic optimism. So we are at that phase now that we are getting things done. And also what that means is that we are facing the reality that we are building a new industry. And building a new industry from scratch, I mean, in the scale that we're talking about, it is a new industry, even if hydrogen isn't new. It's hard, and it takes a lot of moving pieces, and it takes a lot of groups working together, and it takes a comprehensive approach to policy and financing, etc. So it's that point that I actually I'm very happy that we're at this point, that all that not less than realistic optimism is not there, but now you have everyone who's here for the long run and here to get the job done, knowing that it's tough. We're developing a new industry in this time and age, so we're all here to work. So it's that type of realistic moment that we're living for the industry.
Yeah. Here we call it reality check.
Exactly.
But, for sure.
Yeah.
That's very good for industry. What role has the Canadian government played in supporting the hydrogen industry, and how effective have these policies been?
So the Canadian government has played a really important role in the sense that in 2020 the Canadian hydrogen strategy was launched. So that signaled to the world that Canada was ready to take hydrogen very seriously, and Canada was ready to make the development of the hydrogen industry a priority. So fast forward to 2024, you probably have seen it. There has been an update just earlier this year released on the hydrogen strategy for Canada, and we have an investment tax credit that has very recently been legislated, so companies can start projects can start applying for that type of ITC that, depending on the carbon intensity of your projects, would give you between 15 and 40% tax credit on capital expenditures. So that's up and running. Obviously, still room for improvements, and the devil's always in the details. More things are needed from the perspective of, for example, demand side development. So you need to develop everything all at once. So it can be a little bit daunting, but you need to think about supply incentives, but also about demand incentives, and also thinking about policies that enable the different specific uses of hydrogen. Policies may be different. So we are at that time when we have some instruments, but we need to take a very close look at how the different policies and instruments work together, and how they enable each other, and ensure that they don't work at cross purpose, right? So it's a combination of looking at the big picture, but not losing track of the details, and that's a lot of the role of the association working with government.
So you have pretty active role in these projects.
I hope so. So our job is to help our members get their projects up and going. Is help the sector, right? Get up and going. So we try to help to the extent we can, and we always look at our approach is always, so what helps the industry as a whole. How can we help coast to coast, depending on the competencies of each provinces, and the strengths of each project and province, help get the hydrogen industry up and going, and help volumes get realized so that costs go down, etc.
Can you discuss recent investment trends in hydrogen technology?
So we have from the perspective of, for example, government funding. One of our members on the West Coast just received a large envelope of funding from the Canadian Investment Infrastructure Bank, CIB as we call it. That's for a gateway or highway project. So that's mobility. Linde as well, one of our members in Alberta, received a big envelope of funding as well. Air Products as well in Alberta, both projects. And then on the East Coast, our projects are continuing to advance. They have received one of our members, Everwin, received funding from Export Development Canada. A lot of our members working very hard, obviously, to get to FID on a number of projects in Ontario. Slightly more modest, perhaps dollar figures, but a number of projects are also taking traction. So there has been quite a bit of investment in that sense, but I would say that a lot more is needed.
Yeah. What are the major challenges and milestones in developing hydrogen infrastructure?
So challenges, very many, of course, and it's always people talk about the chicken and egg and developing the infrastructure, but also developing the end uses, and all at once again, right? So milestones. Sometimes you need to think about your big picture, but then take that big picture to a very granular level, and then one step at a time. In Ontario, for example, we just a couple of months ago unveiled the first Class 8 trucking station. That's with one of our members, ITD Nicola, and in partnership with Walmart. So filling up Walmart Class 8 trucks. Now that's one station. We have a couple more with the same partners on the go, and we are hoping to unveil another station that was announced a while ago, the funding for it, but that would be at the airport. So those are advances in infrastructures, and then the milestones are you think of a big milestone once you have a whole corridor ready, right? But you need to go one at a time, and then think about the value of those stations at a time. Are they return to base, for example? Is that station sufficient to for those trucks to do Toronto, Sarnia, and back in one full tank of hydrogen, which they can, right? So 700 kilometers, for example. And then the next one would allow for another type of endeavor or another type of business, if you will. So that's one example. Another example, we were in March of this year, specifically in Germany, with our members on the East Coast, talking to our minister on natural resources, and the minister and the vice chancellor on the German side, talking producers and end users. So end users on the German side, producers on the Canadian side. We've been working on these types of projects since 2022. And sometimes you forget to think. You're too caught up in the day-to-day and on the details, and then you think, all right, are we making progress? And then when we were there in March, I realized, oh, wow, we have actually made a lot of progress. Is that sometimes we only focus on the little details and what's not quite working. So it's that mix between the big picture and the details that you always need to remember. A big milestone on that side was the opening of the H2 Global window, right? Now, of course, we go back to details and making sure that it works as effectively as we needed.
Since you mentioned it, how important is the international collaboration for Canada's hydrogen industry?
It is crucial. It is crucial from many perspectives. One that say is obvious is, for example, if Canada is providing a product, say to Europe or to Asia or to another jurisdiction, we need to make sure that that product meets the specifications of that buyer, right? That off-taker, that jurisdiction. Therefore, we need to think about what are those specifications, how are they measured, what are the methodologies used. So from that perspective, methodologies, working together to develop methodologies is very important. Understanding each other's regulatory landscapes is important. Understanding that, for example, on the European side, if there are any RFNBO requirements, are they applicable to Canada, or how would Canada comply with those? Same, imagine selling trucks from the US in Canada, right? Do they need to be homologated, and what is that? What does that process look like? So because we're creating a new industry, and because regulatory is something that is evolving and methodologies are evolving, it's really important to make sure that we work with all jurisdictions to develop methodologies that work for all and that are acceptable in all jurisdictions too.
What are some of the most promising technological innovations in hydrogen energy coming from Canada?
So I would say a lot, and I will mention a few, knowing that this is not an exhaustive list, and I may be leaving some important innovations and members behind. But Canada is a powerhouse when it comes to developing methane pyrolysis technologies. For many reasons, we have obviously a very strong tradition and knowledge in the oil and gas industry. Many companies, specifically with the pyrolysis background. So we have quite a few members in that specific area. And methane pyrolysis is basically breaking methane, which is natural gas, right, into hydrogen and solid carbon. That's one to just mention. Electrolyzer technologies. There's PEM and there's alkaline, but there's a lot of advancements also in anion exchange membranes, which are quite interesting because they're also PFAS free, just as alkaline. So very promising as well. A number of fuel cell companies, not only Ballard, developing very strong IP and very strong applications. Novel ways of producing hydrogen as well, from say aluminum or steel scrap and iron, or turn it into hydrogen. So as the industry advances, you would see more pathways, but also to produce hydrogen, but also more carriers, companies working on developing not just only ammonia projects, but also liquid organic hydrogen carriers. Companies in the liquefaction space, companies developing better ways of storing, more efficient ways of storing hydrogen as well, and also increasing efficiencies, right? Incremental improvements. So electrolyzer efficiency improvements, fuel cell efficiency improvements. So just to name some.
Yeah. So how do you perceive the public perception of hydrogen energy in Canada?
So that's an important one, and it varies jurisdiction to jurisdiction because Canada is such a big country, and the energy mix is so diverse, right? It has been flagged as something that is crucial to work on, and for us, I just yesterday we had a meeting with the Ministry of Energy in Ontario, and that is something, a topic that came up. Oftentimes people see hydrogen as a bit of an abstract um, concept, right?
Yeah.
So where I would like us to get is to the point, when we go to the gas station and we fill up the car, there's a number of questions we don't ask ourselves anymore. Is this safe? Where did this come from? I wonder if there will be, sufficient gas tomorrow. So we need to make sure that it comes from an abstract concept into something that is just part of your everyday life. And it doesn't matter if it's called hydrogen, it's just a way of getting you from A to B, or heating up your home, or firing your furnace at a steel plant, right? It's just a fuel, and making it so second nature that the public stops asking questions about, is this valid? Is this science fiction? Is this real? But what I mean, but it also varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So in some regions in Canada, hydrogen isn't new because hydrogen is a feedstock to a number of industries. So people have a higher level of comfort, if you will, with hydrogen. So it's getting to that level of comfort across the board, right?
Yeah. Well, what is being done to address the skill gap in hydrogen industry?
So that's a really good one. Two things. One, we do have a lot of skill trades and a lot of knowledge and experience from the traditional oil and gas industry, and a lot of the skills are transferable. So that's important. You wouldn't be coming. I'm thinking for a moment about trades and skilled workers. So you wouldn't come in from a zero knowledge baseline, right? So you need that incremental knowledge that applies to hydrogen. And we have a lot of colleges among our members doing really good work developing micro credentials and developing programs also when it comes to maintenance for operators. So only to name two college, College of the North Atlantic on the East Coast, and North Alberta Institute of Technology, for example, and also BCIT, the British Columbia Institute of Technology, just to mention three different regions in the country, are developing very specific programs tailored to skilled workers and the trades, and either micro credential basis or entirely hydrogen focused basis. But the good news is that we don't come from a zero level of skill. And then when it comes to, I guess, when you think about higher education, there has been a tradition of, like I mentioned, hydrogen IP, hydrogen research, hydrogen knowledge, but there are more universities emerging as tremendous players. Dalhousie, University of Quebec Intra-Rivière, Ontario Tech, U of T, University of Toronto, University of British Columbia, University of Alberta, only to name a few, right? There's many other players at the postgraduate level as well.
So let's go back a bit to the association. What are your key priorities and initiatives?
So our key priority, if you looked at our mission, it would be to help our members commercialize their products and to help the hydrogen industry thrive as a whole, right? So that's the core of our mission. A lot of what we do, how do we execute on that mission? A lot of it is awareness and education. So just like we said before, right? Continue to make sure that there's that level of understanding and knowledge and embracing, if you will, of hydrogen as a big economic opportunity for Canada and as a safe fuel for as a safe molecule, if you will, right, to decarbonize all those areas that are hard to abate. So awareness and education is a big one in terms of priority, and also getting our members to develop connections, business to business opportunities, locally, internationally. So yeah, I would say those two: awareness and education, and helping our members create business opportunities within the membership and outside the membership.
And finally, tell me, where do you see hydrogen industry in Canada in 5 years?
Well, I really hope that, back to the first point, I really hope that we're able to claim an important spot in the international arena when it comes to producing hydrogen, using hydrogen domestically, and then hopefully also as an exporter, but not only of hydrogen, but also of clean technologies. So an exporter of our own technologies and our own company's products abroad. So yeah, I'm not going to put a number on it because I'm most likely going to either overshoot or undershoot. Ideally undershoot because we take off so well. But like I said, it is not an entitlement mechanism. The fact that we have led in the past doesn't secure a leadership position in the future, right? We need to, everybody's on board of the hydrogen train, if you will. So we need to work very hard.
Yvette, thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ernest.
Looking to amplify your brand in the hydrogen energy sector? Welcome to H2 Energy News, your go-to platform for impactful industry insights. Every month, we connect with over 80,000 visitors and generate more than 251,000 page views. Our reach is unmatched, with over 1.2 million web impressions and a loyal social media following of 9,000 plus. Our newsletter reaches 77,000 plus subscribers, decision makers, industry leaders, and innovators. Want to target specific markets? Our geo-targeting capabilities cover Europe, the United States, and the MENA region. We reach key stakeholders, 27% senior executives, 32% directors, and 20% owners and partners. H2. Energy News isn't just a news platform, it's where the hydrogen energy community converges to shape the future. Join us and let's make an impact together. Visit energynews.biz and take your brand to the next level.